Welcome to the Roy Works channel. In today's video, we are going to continue work on Bruce, the dune buggy with a 62 Beetle chassis. In today's video, we're going to install the floorboards, or attempt to. So when I initially got this dune buggy, it came with a lot of parts with it, and it had floorboards that came with it. Initially, when I saw it, I said, oh, cool, I'll just have to cut out the old ones, throw in the new ones, maybe have to alter them a little bit. Well, I couldn't have been any more wrong. It's a lot of work. It was way more work than I anticipated. But if you want to stick around a couple minutes, we'll take a look at what I had to do. See what the issue was. So before I started any welding, I wanted to clean out this old mouse nest that was in the center. I also removed the remainder of the soundproofing that was on the center cowl. Tracy's starting to clean up the rims on the dune buggy just to get rid of the rust, and we're planning on painting the center part of those wheels and leaving as much chrome as we can on the outside. Before I could start cutting the floor pans out, I had to remove the clutch and brake assembly. Just to have future reference on where the bolts go to hold that assembly down to the floor pans, I took a few measurements just to have future reference to make sure I knew where those go. So at this point, I wanted to find out where I needed to cut the floor pans. So I figured the best way is to put it in position and see where it needed to be cut. So I found out that I had to prioritize the back section and make sure that fit right. And also I could take away from the front if I needed to. Now it was just time to cut away the floor pans. In this case, I decided to leave a little rim of metal left around the edge just to allow the new floor pans to sit on top of it. I decided to do a lap joint type connection there just to make it stronger. I think a butt joint would have been probably cleaner looking, but I feel like a lap joint's always stronger, especially for a floor pan like this. And I think originally that's how it was intended to be anyway. And now at this time, it's basically just removing all the rust, all the material that is on top of the metal, just to make it so any welding is going to be really good welds along that edge. You can see on the old pan where they cut and re-welded it together. At this point, I had to make the first cut, and that was kind of the tricky part, where to make that first cut. I looked at the old pan, saw where they cut it, and kind of used that as a reference. But you could see where the best place would be, where it goes from a flat stock area to a multiple directional change formed metal. So I tried to keep as much of that as possible and bring it so the only parts I would have to cut would be the flat metal areas. So at this point, I'm having a little bit of a hard time figuring out where to cut the back part of the pan, because this was cut here, and this is where they shortened up the span long way, going across this way. So I have the new floor pan underneath this, and seeing how this lines up with this floor pan. And so this lines up perfect this way. This overlaps on this side, which I have to cut a little strip off of that, because that's got to be a little bit longer so it can overlay my cut. And I want it to land right on top of this ledge right here. But I'm having a hard time figuring out the direction that this pan should be mounted, because this has an angle that comes out basically parallel here and then goes at an angle here. But by the original pan, this is one continuous straight line until it gets to here, and then it curves and goes into that area. So I know these 2 points have to line up, this here and here. So that isn't what I'm worried about. But this here, I have to make sure that this is one straight line here and not an angle like this. So what I think I have to do is trim this back side so that this angle is pivoted that way. So I actually have to take a little out of that corner to make up that difference. So I ended up having to do this in 3 separate pieces. Because this back section was actually too wide, I had to cut it down in half and adjust this outer part. So what I'm going to do so I can stop putting these together and get real accurate measurements, because when I've been trying to fine tune these, everything starts moving. So at this point I'm going to lock this section in place and then work on that inner section and then finalize it with this outer section. All right, so this is the outcome. I ended up fitting both of these pieces together, welding them right across the middle here, and then bonding it together right here, or welding it together right here. At this point, I have it just tack welded around the edges here. I actually ran out of gas for welding, so in the next video I will have that finished up and actually have the other side done. But this was really tough. This was a lot harder than I thought, but I think it worked out pretty well. It's definitely better than what was there. And after I really clean up these welds and grind these down, put some seam sealer around the edge, it's going to look like brand new, or it'll look really good. But that's going to be it for today, guys. Next week I'll have that side done. I want to scrape this all down, get it all cleaned up, ready for Tracy to paint outside. We're going to clean up that area. I want to test that starter to see if that works. Then I'm going to evaluate what has to be changed on this. You know, a lot of it seems to be in good shape. I think when they originally had this, they didn't really put a lot of miles on it. So a lot of things don't have a lot of wear and tear, but I would love information on some of the things I should change just for being older. I think it sat for 20 plus years. So, you know, if anybody wants to chime in and say, hey, you know what? It might not be worn out, but you might want to change this. I always appreciate that information. Like any of my other vehicles, I'm going to go through the brakes and get those done, but that's going to be later on, closer to the fall, because at this point, like you noticed, I had the fan running and the garage doors open during this time of year. I just want to do all the things that I need good ventilation, so I'm going to do a lot of the painting and a lot of cleanup, and wait for the fall to do the mechanics on both Bruce here and Ned. But that's going to be it for today, guys. I will see you next time. Have a good week.